Have you ever been in a situation when you are determined to take action, yet doesn't seem like your action is leading you to the results that you want? Is it perhaps because you haven't set the time to set an intention in what you want to accomplish and match your actions to that purpose? Today, my guest and I are going to discuss what does it take to take intentional action and how it can transform your life. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to Leading Intentionally, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of leadership transformation. I am Carmen Paredes, your guide in this journey, and I'm so thrilled to have you with us today. In each episode, we share strategies, insights, and stories to help you drive growth, enhance workplace culture, and lead with intentionality. Whether you are a seasoned executive, an aspired leader, or just someone passionate about positivity in the workplace, this podcast is for you. Each week, I'll bring you conversations with thought leaders, experts, and trailblazers that will share with you their insights, wisdom, and experiences so that you can apply these practical tips to your leadership journey. Get ready to explore topics like inclusive leadership, women's empowerment, effective communication, and so much more. If you're ready to lead intentionally and make lasting impact in your organization, you are in the right place. Let's embark in this transformative leadership journey together. This is Leading Intentionally. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Leading Intentionally. Today, I have a very special guest, as always. Her name is Desiree Petrich, and she is a speaker, best-selling author, corporate trainer, and host of the Lead with Confidence podcast. She is the founder and CEO of Intentional Action, which provides training programs in the form of team building experiences, leadership workshops, and personality assessments specifically for teams who want to continue to grow together. Desiree will help you build a life you love by taking control of what you can control. She will share her story of love, loss, and leadership to inspire and encourage you to take responsibility for your own happiness. Welcome to the show, Desiree. How are you?
I am fantastic, and leading intentionally is so close to what it is that I do that I'm just so excited for this conversation.
I know. Well, also your podcast, Lead with Confidence is like, that's what I've been doing for 20 years.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. I love the conversations that happen around this topic.
Yes. So I met Desiree in a group of speakers that we're together. So we're speaker sisters. That's how we call each other. And I was so excited because she just launched a book. And when I saw the title of the book, I'm like, oh my God, she needs to come into the show. And so I'm so excited to dive into that topic. But I always like to start with a little bit of your story so people can relate to you and get to know you at a personal level. And in your bio, you mentioned a story of love and loss. And I'm a little curious to see if you can share with us what is that? How do you end up here helping people with taking intentional action?
Yeah, I always say that my story is twofold. There was two major events that happened that kind of shaped who I am and why I do what I do. In 2020, I had a 6-month-old daughter and I was leading a dementia facility when the pandemic hit. So everything that was kind of within our control at that time all of a sudden was stripped away from us, and we were having to wear gloves and masks and shields and gowns, and that was if I got to see the tenants in the building that I was managing. So I dove into personal development and leadership content in a way to try and take control back of myself and my thought patterns, because they were not great in that time. And I have not stopped since. I have fallen in love with personal growth and leadership. So fast forward multiple years, I'm pregnant with my second baby. And I was really excited about working in events. I had completely shifted out of healthcare after COVID kind of subsided a little bit. And I had my son on 2/22/22 during a blizzard.
Wow.
He ended up needing to go to the NICU, which we were not able to get to because of the blizzard. So long story short, we get to the NICU. He makes it. We're there for about a month before he's able to come home and meet his big sister. But 24 hours after we got home, I got a call that my mom had had a stroke. And because of the COVID restrictions that seemingly were kind of gone in the outside world, in healthcare, they were still very much there. So I had to choose between my son, my 1-month-old son, and my mom. I couldn't see both. Essentially, I had to choose. And obviously, I chose my 1-month-old. So over the course of the next 2 months, I only got to see my mom 3 times before she passed away from a second stroke. And
Good to hear.
yeah, I've told the story so many times now. Every once in a while, I still get choked up, but at this point, it's just kind of like rolling off the tip of my tongue. But here's where the second piece comes in is my mom was the most kind and generous, hardworking, like work ethic, wanted to just be friends with everyone and was still so passionate about her job. And so when she passed away, I said, I need to stop playing small. I need to figure out what it is I want to do with my life, and I need to do it now, and I need to stop waiting. So I started my company, Intentional Action, which is a leadership development company, because I wanted to bring the best parts of my mom and all the things that she embodied as a leader for 30 years and the personal growth and development and leadership lessons that I had learned. And I wanted to culminate that in a way of helping individuals within teams, but also just in life to create a life that they loved and not feel like they had to wait for the next thing.
I have so many chills going everywhere in my body. I'm a very spiritual person, and I know your mom's smiling down. Like this is such an amazing legacy, right? That you got inspired by something so devastating like losing a parent. I mean, I lost my dad too, because I was pregnant with my son when he passed, and it was unexpected. He was very healthy, and one day just decided to have a heart attack. I mean,
Yeah.
like nobody expected it. So I didn't have time to say goodbye either. Like one day we talked, and the next day he wasn't there. So, but it is so inspiring that you're taking that and using it as a catalyst to transform people's life. And as someone who was in corporate America for over 20 years, leading people, I know very much the tale of, well, maybe I wait for my next job. Maybe I wait for my promotion. Maybe I wait for my next project to feel happier, to feel fulfilled. And that next thing never comes, people. It never,
Mhm.
because if you cannot enjoy what you have today, whatever circumstances you have in your life, as dramatic as they seem like, a loss of a family member or COVID or whatever it is that's happening, life can always get worse, but it can also get better. And it all starts with taking intentional action. And so this is what I think it's so aligned what you're teaching with what I talk about nonstop.
Yeah, and I call it woo. I've never really been a woo kind of person, but ever since my mom passed away, I'm like, I see a dragonfly or I see a specific kind of bird or a butterfly, and I'm just like, yeah, mom's here. Like I don't question it. It doesn't feel weird. It just feels like the most natural thing in the world, whether it's just because I want to believe it or because it's just this deep knowing that no matter what, she'll always kind of be there. I definitely feel that, and it goes against every masculine energy part of me from all of the work that I've done up until now. But sometimes we have to create those signs and symbols that those things that are important to us that we can't see are still there.
And I can go on a whole rabbit trail about energy from masculine energy, but we're not going to do that in this. Maybe we have take two to talk about that.
Yes.
Uh, so let's talk about how was the concept of intentional action born? I mean, I get that you had this breakthrough in your life, but what does it mean? What does it mean in your words to take intentional action?
Well, the back of my book, if you were to read it, it says we all have good intentions to scroll less, to read more, to watch less TV, to spend more time with our friends. But good intentions mean nothing if it's not followed by an intentional action. And
Mhm.
action itself is not enough because you can take an action in any direction and it might take you further away from what you want. It needs to be intentional. It needs to be driven in the trajectory of what it is that you ultimately want. So intentional action for me is not just having a thought or a dream. It's not just wanting to be friends with someone, but to reach out and connect with them. Um, after my mom passed away, it was probably 6 months after, and I was like, why am I okay? Why am I not depressed? Why do I still want to work out? Why do I still want to read? I don't understand. She was my best friend. Like, I feel like I should be more broken. And I was broken, don't get me wrong, but I just still felt like I had so much to live for, and there was so much appreciation and gratitude still found in every day. And so I reverse engineered what I had done over the course of the past 4 years and created a framework. It's the framework that makes up my book. It's the foundation of self. It's made up of self-engagement, self-worth, and self-awareness. Just this intentional journey that we have to take to create a life that we love, so that when you get injured or fired or someone passes away or something happens, you don't have to start from scratch, and you don't have to do it alone, because you've created this really solid foundation of self.
So let's repeat really quick the three cells. So people
Yes.
yeah.
So it's self-engagement, the habits that you need to incorporate in your life. It's self-worth. It's the belief that you can do anything that you set your mind to. And it's self-awareness, leadership, emotional and social intelligence, all of the things that you'll never truly succeed in, because it's a journey that will never end.
Yes. It's very interesting because at the time we're recording this, the podcast that went live today, I was talking with a fellow TEDx speaker. We share the stage in Zimbabwe at a TEDx talk, and he talks about procrastination. Now, this is something that when he was delivering his talk, something that hit me very strong, because in my personal development journey, which it's been many decades, I have learned that procrastination is not what society thinks. And promise this comes back to your topic. It's not what society think it is. That it's just you're just a lazy person. I have found myself so many times taking action that takes me away from that thing that I want to, because I'm so afraid, but not consciously. It's the subconscious belief that it's keeping me from really going after I want. But because my nature as an Enneagram 8 go-getter type A personality, high achiever, I'm not one who's going to sit in the couch and do nothing. A lot of masculine energy I need to be doing, right? And so to trick myself that I am doing everything I can to make this happen, I will do, right? But it's not the right action. And I think that's where your concept, your framework comes through, because it needs to be an action that leads you towards the goals that you want.
Yep. And I'm an Enneagram 8 as well. So I 100% am with you on that. But yeah, and it's constantly moving and constantly doing things and not allowing yourself to rest. That's where I end up getting myself in trouble. And so intentional action is not just always moving the needle forward. Intentional action is when you need a break, when you need to go on a date night or go have supper with friends. It's taking that intentional time and that decision to stop and slow down and to take the time that you need, so that when you are ready to keep moving forward, you can do it effectively.
And as you're saying that, what's coming to me right now is that, because I also had to learn this after my massive burnout, where I had to literally, I had to quit my job. I mean, I had a lot of physical illness, bleeding ulcers. I had to take 18 months to heal myself, to not die on my children. Basically, that's how bad it got. And what if the intentional action is to do nothing? What if the intentional action is just to take care of yourself, just to, self-worth, as is one of your frameworks. So I think that's a paradigm that, because action we're labeling as doing, right? But what if the action is being?
Yeah.
The feminine energy.
Exactly. I struggle with that so much. To get me to do breath work is like pulling teeth, but it's just so amazing when you
That's
just,
hard work.
it
Breath work is
is
hard work. Like people
sitting
think
there
it's
doing
easy.
nothing. It's so
Oh,
hard.
no.
But that work, the the journaling and the meditating, which again, I'm terrible at because I just struggle with it, but it doesn't have to look the same for everyone. My meditating is going to look very different than yours, and that's okay too. So it's that self-awareness piece. That's the largest part of everything that I talk about, is getting to know ourselves, being able to create and control the own dialogue that's going on in our head, and being able to understand why it's happening in the way that it is, so that we can take control of those smaller, minute things that seemingly are out of our control, but you'd be surprised.
Perfect. Now let's talk about how do you apply this to teams, corporations, businesses, um, because I know, and part of the work I do is to instill in people the knowledge that you perform in any corporation, in any job, when you bring all the parts of yourself into the table and you heal all the baggage that you've been carrying around, right? So personal development and healing and introspection is so important to be able to be productive.
Yeah.
But not everyone is on board yet. So this is another opportunity to share with people how this type of work actually helps teams work better.
So I'm actually certified in multiple different modalities. I am a John Maxwell team member. I am a DISC certified consultant, and I am also an authorized partner for the 5 dysfunctions of a team. So
Mhm,
those are the base of what I use in the corporate space.
mhm,
However, if you were to look at the 5 dysfunctions of a team, the very base of it is trust.
mhm.
And most people's definition of trust is, I ask my coworker to do this for me and I know they're going to get it done because they always have in the past. That's what most people assume trust is. In this framework, it is vulnerability based trust. It's how
Mhm.
much can we knock down the barriers that we've put up to keep other people out, to actually invite them in. So I use a lot of the frameworks from my book and DISC as self awareness tools. So we're not only in the process of getting to know ourselves better, but when you're in a team setting and you're talking about these things, you're connecting more one on one with one another. Even if you don't realize that that is what you're doing, you're creating more space for one another to be vulnerable. You're creating more empathy within your relationship because you get to know each other better. You understand why people are doing the things that they're doing. So I love working with teams because there is not enough time to connect. There's not enough opportunity to show appreciation and gratitude. And that's the space that I want to create for those teams. And I have yet to do a workshop or a group coaching mastermind where there isn't just massive amounts of vulnerability based trust coming out of that room.
You know, I have always been deemed as a very good leader. I mean, everyone who worked for me have said it. I have, recommendations from my team members in LinkedIn, and for instance, one of the metrics that I am most proud of is I never had a person quit on me in 20
Mm,
years.
wow.
I don't know that many people can say that, but and this is actually what I talk about in my TEDx talk in my first. There's another one coming soon. Is that you basically just have to care. The framework I presented it is the cares framework, and it's like you have to care for them. I learned this throughout my career when I actually got into the Enneagram, which in essence is a little bit of what you're talking about, like with being empathetic and compassionate toward other people's behaviors, struggles, wounds, whatever you want to call it, right? I remember there was this peer a long time ago. Oh my God, he annoyed me like nobody's business. I couldn't stand him to open his mouth. I would like get triggered like this. And we did this teamwork exercise, and it was with the quadrants. It wasn't this, but it was similar. And I realized why he triggers me. We are like at the opposite side of the matrix. But after that, it's not like he changed or I changed, but I was compassionate
Yes.
towards his type. And so I knew he wasn't trying to say 100 words to tell me the one thing he wanted to tell me and waste my time, right? I just knew this is the way he communicates. And
Yeah.
so before I talk to him, I will like, whew, I will expect it, right? So I was like, okay, I need 30 minutes, not 5 seconds, right? So things
Yeah.
like that. And then I started applying it with my teams. And this is when I got into the Enneagram. And it was pretty interesting because like I had the whole spectrum, like all the personalities. And I knew exactly what kind of things were going to trigger, which things they're going to perform better than, and what do they need to work on to be able to feel better about themselves, be fulfilled, increase their productivity, and so on and so forth. And so I think what you're bringing into the table is something similar like that, where, it's all about being human. How can we be caring humans at work when we spend most of the day and connect in a way where we trust each other?
Mm-hmm. It's so funny. I just got done recording my own podcast episode on using love as a business strategy, in the sense of love, yes, is an emotion that we can feel, the unconditional for our kids, or the lust for a spouse, or the connection we feel with a friend, but it's also an action. It's the kindness that we show to others, even if they're not our best friend. It's the spiral of kindness and optimism and positivity that we start knowing that it could affect someone that we would never have the opportunity to approach or connect with on any other level. So it's this concept that love does not have to be this ushy gushy mushy feeling. It's love is how you should approach the way that you work. And I always say the opposite of leading from love is leading from fear. And when you are fearful that people are going to find out that you don't know what you're doing, or you're fearful that you're going to lose control, or that people aren't going to do things right and you're going to get in trouble, whatever you're scared of, that is the opposite of leading with love. So it's just kind of starting to close that gap between the two and making very small intentional actions to move from one side of it to the other.
It's funny that you're talking about love versus fear, because one of the things that's happened to me as I grow older is that I have been able to start picking up in Disney movies really, really good messages. I'm serious. Like I was watching Inside Out 2 the other day, and I'm like, oh, anxiety. Yeah, I see it now. I can personalize it. Like, you are not going to touch that bored in my, like, let Joy do it, right? But in the love versus fear, Elsa, right, in Frozen, when she was afraid of her powers, everything was a disaster, and then it clicks. It needs to come from love, and
I love
then
that. I'm going to
she
use that analogy.
I know, it's like, and it's like, I mean, my daughter is 16, so I've watched that movie 100 times, but it didn't click the first time. It didn't click until after years of not watching the movie.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's true. It's like it's how we can relate to each other, and when your team members know that you love them, um, and I've gone in a whole rampage about the word love in English. So that's one of, I feel, the disadvantages of the English language is like there's one word for that. And
Yeah.
like you go to Greek, there's 17 different words to express different types of love. So here we go. Love, you love your team members, and they all of a sudden will do anything for you. They will go above and beyond and deliver and not procrastinate and not um, be wasting time surfing the web, because they care about you too.
Mhm.
There's reciprocity.
I'm reading Adam Grant's book right now, Hidden Potential, and there's a study in there about how if we set high expectations for our coworkers or our team members and hold them accountable, they're actually more likely to do better work as opposed to shut down and feel like they can't reach it. If there is that respect and that kindness, essentially love is what we're talking about right now. If that is present, then we have the ability to hold people to a higher standard, assuming we're holding ourselves to that same high standard. And that is just, I can never fully explain why my husband and I get along so well when we are such opposite humans. But I think it's because we hold ourselves to such a high standard. We can then in turn hold one another to that high standard. And then we have this base of trust and kindness and mutual respect that just kind of makes it work. And that just goes to show it doesn't matter if someone has a complete opposite personality style of you. It doesn't matter if their home life looks 100% different than yours. It doesn't matter if, their work ethic in the sense of, how they're getting things done is different than you. You can still hold that vulnerability based trust as long as you know each other.
One thing that I also have learned with my grace
Mhm.
is that when someone triggers you in anything, romantic relationships at work, your kids, oh my God, your kids.
I have a 2 and a 4-year-old. I get it.
Oh, yeah, just wait. 17, 14, and 10. Just wait. When someone triggers you, we tend to blame them for their faults, and because we're right and they're wrong, and that also tells you that you are not very far into your healing journey. But when you realize that all they are doing is holding a mirror on you, like a hand mirror, and that thing that's triggering you is something you have to look into yourself.
Yeah.
And at work, this is such an important recognition, and I really don't think most people in corporate, in business, even allow themselves to bring that knowledge in. And it's such an unfortunate thing, because I feel, because I did it in my teams, like we had such a cohesive relationship where, I mean, like 2 years later, they call me to check on me, or I was at with some girlfriends at a concert the other night, and like there's this guy that comes, is like, oh my God, Carmen, and I'm like, oh, I mean, like, it's like, I mean, you have a leader that you don't like, you just walk the other direction, right? And so those reinforcements keep telling me that I did something good, and I really just related all to what we're talking about. It's just using that humanity and caring and loving, and just making sure I saw people for who they were.
Yeah.
So when we go back to your framework, because I want to go back to that. What is the process you take your clients to adopt in their life this? Because people will say, I'm like, okay, I get it, I'm going to change my habits. I don't have any limiting beliefs. I mean, I've said that before. It's like, oh yes, you do. And I mean, awareness is such a never ending process of the things that you need to continue to be aware of yourself. So what does it look like to work through something like this, uh, for someone who might not be so in tune with personal development?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I have this second framework that I'm working on for my second book, but it's not finished yet. So
Okay.
I'm going to try and explain this to you without having a whiteboard to draw it out. But the interesting thing about self engagement, again, it comes back to those habits of those good intentions that we all have, but we don't follow through on them. So the first chapter in my book is called Evaluating Your Excuses. It's not about eliminating them. If you have a goal to run a 5K and you don't ever get off the couch to run,
Wow.
eliminating the excuse of getting off the couch is not going to be helpful because you still don't want to do it. You're going to find some other resistance to it. So you have to evaluate, why am I not getting off the couch? Do I even want this goal? Do I want to engage in this particular activity? And if not, then you go back to the drawing board. So that's part of that self-worth. Is it the belief of, can I get what I want? Do I want what I say that I want? And do I have the things in place that need to help me get there? So whether your answer is yes, that's still what I want, now I just need to find a different way, or no, that's not what I want, I need to find a different goal, we come back to this self-engagement where there are 12 pillars. There's everything from mental health and physical health, sleep, money mindset, connections, relationships, all of these different pillars that make it up. And you pick one, maybe two things that you want to accomplish. Now, you could say, oh, I want to get my physical health better. And I would say, okay, great. What does physical health mean to you? I make you redefine it in a way that it's specific to you. They say, well, it would mean that I would lose some weight. And I would say, okay, great. What modality are you going to do that in? And we just keep breaking it down further and further and further until we get to one habit. That habit might be, I want to go for a 10-minute walk twice a day. We've broken it down from I want better physical health all the way down to this one tangible thing that can actually be accomplished and checked off. And once you go through that once and you see the possibilities that can come from engaging in that habit, self-engagement, then you start to get excited about doing that with more of them. And so it's not a one-time workshop, although we do it in workshops, but it's not a one-time thing. It is a never-ending process. And once you learn to ask yourself the right questions, the better questions, that's when you can start to engage in the process. So I have this framework in my book called, I say, confidence is as easy as ABC. The A is acquisition. It's that first tier. It's what do I need? Who do I need in order to get from where I am right now to where I want to be? You have to list out those things. If it's a certification for a promotion that you want, if it's a relationship to get you that feeling of you have a business bestie at work, regardless of what it is, what do you need to acquire in order to get from where you are to where you want to be? The second part of it is belief. So it goes into that second tier of, do I believe that I can have it? If you don't, it's not because you will never be able to acquire what it is that you want, but it's because you maybe set your sights too far in the future. We have to learn to be okay with smaller, more incremental movements, or we're never going to reach the things that we want. If I told you that I want to lose 40 pounds in the next 2 weeks, I mean, obviously that is way far outside of the possible, but it's also not something I can accomplish. So you have to peel it back to something that feels manageable for you. It doesn't mean that it has to be something that other people will believe, but you have to believe it. And then the C, it's acquisition, belief, and consistency. It's, okay, I decided what I want to do. I believe that I can do it. Now, how am I going to make sure that I'm following through? If you know who Gretchen Rubin is, she has a framework called the 4 tendencies. And it's, how do I react to the expectations of others? Do I need someone to hold me accountable? Am I able to hold myself accountable? Am I someone who needs to have all of the information first and ask a lot of questions before I'm able to start something? Again, it all leads back to this self-awareness of, what do I know about myself? What more can I learn about myself? What trial and error can I have to continue learning about myself? And that's it. That's exactly what the framework is. It's, you can try and succeed or try and fail. It doesn't matter, because with every single decision that you make, you're learning more about who you are and what it is that you want.
And I want to hit in the head a thought that I know, because I've been there, not having the thought, but like in the table, people's like, oh, but what are we going to get that if it's not going to solve all the problems? And this is what I believe. If you are 1% better than you were yesterday, you're winning. Because most people live their life the same for 20 years. And they don't grow, they don't expand, they don't change, they don't do anything about it. So even being exposed to these concepts opens something in the psyche, right, that will start allowing you to start digging and going deeper into it, and then eventually have the transformation. And other thing I said is, like, let's normalize that there's no such thing as I'm going to fix all my problems, because the more you grow, the more you expand, the more you heal, the more things that come for healing. Right? This is my experience.
Yeah. And I recently read a book by Stephen Furtick called The New You. And he said, everyone is so focused on the future you, I'm gonna do this because this is the future me. But if you don't change who you are right
Wow.
now, the things that you're doing, future you is going to look a whole heck of a lot like who you look like right now. And if you're not happy with that, then the future you is not going to help you.
Yeah.
So you have to do things in accordance with the new you, the person that you want to be, the identity that you want to hold. And you need to start putting those things in place so that one day you will reach that definition, or the definition might change, and that's okay, because you're always striving for that person that you want to be, as opposed to this vision of this future you that you have no control over.
I love it. I love it. So, is there anything you want to share with the audience as we need to start wrapping up the show? How can they find you? How can they engage you to work with them? And how does that look like?
So the first thing that I want to say is just a final message to wrap this all up, in the sense of your life will not wait for you. It's not like you're doing a workout video and you can't catch your breath, so you hit pause until you catch your breath. Life won't wait for you. We have to keep moving. And if that means you take a break, you have to be okay with things continuing to go on around you, and just learning to focus on the things that you can control. So that is a message that I want to share. It's kind of the overall arching message of my book, is that your life won't wait for you. So how can you set yourself best up for success? But if you are interested in hearing or listening to, oh my gosh, if you are interested in reading, I keep saying listening to, but there's no Audible book yet. So if you're interested in reading the book, you can go to DesireePetrich.com/book. Otherwise, it's on Amazon at Taking Intentional Action. You can also check out my podcast, Lead with Confidence. I'm on there twice a week. Tuesdays is Personal Development Day, and Thursdays is Leadership Day. I am also on Instagram and LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time there. So if you want to connect, I would love to connect with you. And ultimately, I would just love to be able to answer any additional questions you have, or just support you in any way, shape, or form as you kind of work through the self-engagement, self-worth, and self-awareness framework.
I love that. And I hope the Audible book is coming.
It is coming, yes. It's a lot more work than you'd think,
Okay.
but it's coming.
Yes, I am actually one of those people who love to listen to books rather than read books, because as an Enneagram 8 multitasker, I read while I'm doing dishes or vacuuming, or I read.
And I can't even have a book on normal speed. I have to speed it up to 2 times, because I'm like, otherwise I get distracted. I have to have it coming in faster.
It's been a pleasure to have you here, Desiree. It seems like we're going to have take two to when the new book comes out.
Yes,
We'll
absolutely.
yeah, I will be so excited to do that. And honestly, I can't wait to share stage with you sometime
Yeah.
soon. And
Speaker sister for life. I love
I
it.
know, I know. So thank you so much for being here. We're gonna put all the links for this year in the show notes, and you know the drill. Till next time, live intentionally. Bye bye.